You ever watch a piece of political commentary and just kind of wonder, what's the angle here? How are they trying to convince me? Well, today we're going to break down a pro-Trump video to see exactly how it builds its case and paints a very specific picture for its audience. So let's dive right in. Okay, so the source material kicks things off with this, wow. It's an incredibly direct, incredibly blunt statement. I mean, this line right here, it immediately sets a really aggressive tone and, it gives you a pretty clear idea of the kinds of solutions we're about to explore. All right, just a quick heads up before we go any further. Our goal here isn't to say whether these points are right or wrong. Not at all. We're really just focused on the how. How are these arguments put together? What kind of language is being used? And how does it all weave together to tell one very, very specific story? So, first up on the docket, the conflict with Iran. The question is, how does this commentary justify the military strike? Well, it starts by pulling in a pretty surprising political ally. The video immediately turns to Senator John Kennedy, and it makes a point to say he isn't usually a war hawk. The way it's framed, his support for the strike is this major shift, something they claim is because of classified intelligence he's just seen. And just listen to the language here. This quote from the video is pretty stark. Using phrases like elected to receive and rest in pieces is a deliberate choice. It's used to frame the whole thing not as some somber, necessary act, but as a clear-cut, almost casual victory. Okay, so after justifying the strike itself, the video gets to the question of cost, but notice how it does it. Instead of talking about the actual price tag, it immediately pivots, comparing it to alleged domestic fraud. The effect is to make this huge military action seem financially, insignificant by comparison. Now, to really bolster the case, the video talks up claims of strong international support, saying NATO's chief is fully on board. What's interesting is that it also points out the allies who are, staying on the sidelines. It adds this little layer of what seems like transparency to the argument. And from there, from that global stage, the whole narrative just pivots right back home. It's a really fascinating shift that connects foreign policy strength directly to a sense of domestic pride. And it all starts with a showcase of some impressive American military tech. So the video takes this little detour to put a spotlight on the CRAM system. It's presented as this perfect high-tech answer to the very modern threat of cheap rockets and drones. The story here is all about American ingenuity being both super effective and financially smart. And then the source breaks it down for us, showing exactly how this CRAM works in 3 simple steps. The whole point here is to create this really clear, powerful image of American technology acting like an impenetrable shield for its troops. Then, boom, the tone just shifts completely to this very somber tribute. By focusing on this specific moment, the video is painting a picture of a president who is deeply respectful of the military. It's a portrait that, implicitly contrasts him with what the video's audience might see as disrespect from leaders in the past. Now, this is interesting. The commentary goes right at a piece of negative economic news. Instead of trying to ignore it, it tackles the criticism head-on, essentially framing that negative headline as just a big misunderstanding of what the data is really saying. And this, right here, is the core of their whole argument. The video basically says, hey, ignore that scary headline number, that's just a distraction. The real story, they argue, is right here in this breakdown. What they point to is this big jump in jobs for native-born workers, while jobs in government and for foreign-born workers actually went down. And this reframing is really the key takeaway. It's a classic narrative trick, right? You take a negative-looking statistic and you redefine it as a total win for your core audience. In this case, by spinning it as a gain for American workers. The video's final act unveils this huge new foreign policy concept, the Shield of Americas. It's presented as this massive, sweeping coalition designed to secure the entire hemisphere from the threat of drug cartels. So the video starts laying out the details of this new partnership. It's all framed as this landmark Trump announcement, something that will unite nations all across the Americas with one single, incredibly ambitious goal: to just wipe out the drug cartels completely. Now, to really get the audience to understand the scale of this thing, the video makes a very deliberate and very powerful comparison. It frames this new anti-cartel coalition as being strategically the same thing as the international coalition that was put together to defeat ISIS. And this quote right here just hammers that comparison home. It frames the cartels not just as, criminals, but as an existential threat. on the same level as major international terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And finally, the video names the key players who would supposedly be leading this coalition. It's a move that adds a sense of official weight and makes this very ambitious plan feel a lot more concrete and structured. So when you take a step back from all this, the big takeaway here isn't really about whether any single one of these claims is true or false. It's about the power of the narrative itself. It's about how choosing certain stories and framing them in a very specific way can construct an entire worldview. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, right? The next time you're watching or reading anything, ask yourself, can I see the narrative they're building for me?